Jeanie, Jeanie, the colourful world of Jeanie.
Hello, I'm Jeanie Mellersh. I'm going to show you my paintings and drawings that I've done for a nude a day for 2 months, starting January the 1st, and I call them by the date, so one a day. And the first one I call the Halo of Bright Light. This is painted on a grey-green pastel card, and it's got a surface, and sometimes it's nice to draw on, but the surface is not very permanent. It can come off if it has a drip of water on it. It might just fall off. So I'm not very happy about the surface of this, but it works so long as you keep it good. The model was posing on a very dull day, very, very dark. The light, the natural light, suddenly went right down, and I was drawing, and this was the colour of the natural light, and I thought, well, it's pretty difficult to make a painting out of something which is so dull. And as the light came back out, I brightened it up around her head, and then I called it a halo of bright light, a halo of golden light. The golden light around her head, and warm pinks around her face and her legs, and then a darker pink down the bottom of her legs, with a light pink where the natural light was catching on her. It's a seated pose, both hands towards us, on the bench she was sitting on, and she's looking quite pensive. That was January the 1st, the first painting. The second painting, January the 2nd, is called it's called Morning Has Broken. She's just waking up, sitting on a blue quilt, and there's dark behind her, which shows her the light shining on her back. When I first did that, I would do the sweep of the back before I did anything, and get the gesture of the pose before I did any detail or anything. It's a very quick pose, but not the very quickest. This was 20 minutes. It's probably one of the longest poses in this series. Most of them are a few minutes. I put the darks behind to emphasize the golden light on her body. And when I scanned it, I painted into it, so it was a different effect. Swirlings of the quilt, like water. I call this dreaming on top of the world. She seems to be dreaming. She's into a sculptural pose. In fact, I did a sculpture very similar to this when I was about 17, one of my first works of art. And it's very compact, and there's dark shadow behind to emphasize the brightness of her body. And the quilt seems as if she's on top of a big spherical sphere of the earth, but it's nice and soft. I can see that. Charcoal on white paper. January the 4th, I called it Spanish music. She seemed to be dancing to Spanish music. Her body, her feet, her hands, her gesture of her spine, the way it's swirling, and her arm was up, but it went right out of the picture. It was she was in a dance position, and she kept it for 2 minutes. I had to be very quick. One line, as fast as I could, non-stop, booed up and down. Quite exhausting to do something in 1 or 2 minutes. One line, 2 minutes. But I don't think I wasted those 2 minutes. It inspired me, and I'd like to do another one in a similar way. That one was charcoal on white paper. This is a dull khaki colour pastel card, and the model is reclining very gracefully, and she's wondering, are you sitting comfortably? Well, I'll begin. And she's going to tell us a story. And the reclining is not on a bed, it's not exactly a couch, it's cushions covered in a quilt, a sort of light yellowy quilt. And her face and her body is lit by a soft pink glow. It was on this very dull day, and the light was very, very low, got lower and lower. Yep. This is January the 6th. It's the day, I called it, what did I call it? At last I can relax completely. And my exercise guru, Sammy, commented, it looks like my clients after an exercise session. And it's exactly how I feel. It's exhausting, but Sammy does a good job with us. She keeps us young. And this model has just thrown herself on the corner of the bed, and her legs and her arms were just sliding off, and I think she's fast asleep already. And the dark behind emphasizes the body, which doesn't have not much of an outline. It's more the shapes of the shadow which bring her out. This is charcoal on white paper, and it's called Fixing Her Hair Back View. This is January the 7th, and I'd like you to also look at January the 8th when I show it, because I think they go together. They are a similar pose, but not the same. And on January the 8th, it is adjusting her hair front view. With each one, I would do the sweep of maybe the spine, swell it in, leave it, and draw around it. That gives me a start to the gesture of the drawing of the pose. I would just quickly swirl in. My arms would move like a bird's wing from the shoulder and the elbow, and not so much the wrist, but the shoulder and the elbow are moving like a bird's wing, swirling about, getting in in 2 minutes. Probably a 2-minute pose. It's a 2-minute pose. And after 2 minutes, she will change her pose. It's not that she couldn't hold the pose. It's because she said, 2 minutes? And we said yes. Charcoal on white paper, a gesture drawing. They're all gesture drawings, but this is a bit more clear-cut of what a gesture drawing really is. Here's another gesture drawing, and this is the one I wanted you to combine it with this one, the other one. It's the same model, and she is adjusting her hair, and it's front view. When I'm drawing from the model, I look at her pose, and I nearly always walk all the way around her to see what she looks like from all the different angles, and I'll stop at the one that I think is the most interesting, and not necessarily the easiest or the most complicated. I'll just what inspires me, and I'll then go and get my chair and my easel, my stuff, and quickly sit down in that place and draw from that place. And sometimes it's a back view and sometimes it's a front view. Or with the last one you saw was a back view. She was probably very interesting from the front, but I didn't choose that pose. And this one, maybe somebody is painting from the back. But I painted from this angle, and I like it. I think it goes with the other one. This is January the 14th. It must be January the 13th was the other one. Can't remember. But this is called Adjusting Her Hair, and it's like, I think it'd be quite nice to be hang as a pair. Thank you. Charcoal on pastel paper. Hello. I got this January the 8th. The model is looking away with her hands on a towel folded, leaning onto a folding chair. She's standing behind some glowing pink and yellow background and a bit of soft pink near her face as well. The dove grey pastel paper is left here and there through her body. It's as a shadow colour. So I combine the colour of the paper with the flesh, with nearly always. I don't obliterate it. I use it to enhance my painting. And that is called just an eyelash, because two people, not at the same time, both said, "Oh, it's just an eyelash," because there's no face, just an eyelash, and the face is indicated. So you don't need to paint a face if you just get the eyelash.
Oh, somebody commented, a bum to die for.
Somebody commented, a bum to die for. Oh.
It's on the table.
Okay, Doug.
Two hands. An eyelash to die for. January the 10th. I call this languorously leaning. It is water-based, and it is on watercolour paper. Nice bit of paper. And it's good if you're using water-based paint to use good paper, because it helps it enhances the medium. And pastel paper enhances the pastel medium. If you've just got ordinary cartridge paper, that's good for pen and ink or charcoal or pencil or many things. This is quite a stiff piece of paper. They're very strongly made. They give you good service. When I was doing this painting, I began with felt tip or some sort of mechanical tip of turquoise, just to draw around it to get started. And then I worked in with a soft ochres in the body, and I blended them in and put some background grey in the background there, some darks, and the dark for the hair. And as you can see, the sweep of this from the spine going right down to that knee is very nice. And I like to get the sweep before I do anything else. Just sweep and then fit the picture around the sweep. If you do it the other way around, you usually get a more upright picture with no sweep. Get the sweep at the start and leave it there and paint around it. Don't scratch it out, but leave it there. It'll help you to remember that that's what it's all about. You're painting the gesture of the pose. And the model is fitting in very beautifully and gracefully with the weight on the right elbow, sweeping down with the bent leg, and that knee there and the toes peeping through there. I think that's what that is. I couldn't tell you really. And that is Languorously Leaning. Thank you. And it's January the 10th. This is January the 11th, and it's called Early Morning. I've elongated this pose just because I have. And she's leaning her hands on a towel folded up on a folding chair. And I've done some background shading so that she comes forward rather than drawing outlines. I put the background in, and it helps her to come forward. A young woman charcoal on plain paper. This is another drawing on paper with charcoal, and I call it flamboyant. The reason is that I thought that was the extreme emotion I read in that pose. I felt she was feeling flamboyant, and she designed the pose. She put her arms up. I didn't have time to put them in. It is a 2-minute pose, so and it's one line. It's one line. Just do. Keep going with the charcoal until it's 2 minutes, and that's your lot. And then you've got the actual essence of the pose is in the first 2 minutes. And whatever you're doing, it's a good idea to feel this, feel the essence of what you're looking at, immediately you start drawing. Don't just let it come. Just go for it. And that's what I felt with this flamboyant, with the weight on that leg, the balance on that tippy toe. It seems as if she's going a long nail, but she really hasn't. And her arms up, which help to balance. I think it's a bit foreshortened there, but you don't measure things when you're in a 2-minute pose. And that's charcoal on white paper. Full frontal. Thank you. January the 12th, 5-minute pose, pensive walking. I feel as if her pose is pensive and she's maybe walking or maybe thinking of walking. I'm not quite sure. I like the relaxed pose and the fingers. They need to have a bit more built up as to be a 3-dimensional feel about a hand over there, but it was a very quick pose, 5 minutes, with pastel. The lavender behind her legs brings her legs out. That's the only bit that I have brought out. Everything else is just the pose with some brown pastel there, which is same brown pastel here and there, and then there's a touch of soft pink here and there down more in the legs, and some of this lavender here and there, just a touch there. Back view, standing, charcoal and pastel on white or creamy white paper. Thank you. I call this asleep on blue quilt. She's very relaxed, no tension. That folded under her, this leg dangling right down to the ground, the ribs showing, but not too fiercely, the head hidden by that arm, and a golden light touching on the upper surfaces, here, 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 and here, and here. And there's a dark brown shadow behind her, which really brings out the body with its golden glow. And the shadow vaguely turns to slate greeny blue. And then onto this grey paper, sort of browny grey, like donkey grey. So that is reclining figure on a blue quilt on grey paper in pastel. Thank you. Pastel card. Thank you. 20 minutes. A 3-minute pose. Amazing, graceful flexibility. There's nothing like flexibility, like our model here, who thinks nothing of twisting herself in knots and holding it for as long as you like. She said, "How long will that be?" 3 minutes. And we settled. Oh, she said, 20 minutes? How long would you like? We settled for 3 minutes. We were worried about the pain of holding that pose, but she was not a bit in pain. She was very relaxed and happy. Amazing, graceful pose. Amazing, graceful flexibility. gesture drawing, charcoal on creamy white pastel paper. A 5-minute pose, and it's called Walking and Thinking. She looks as if she's just slowly walking and got her head turned away. I think she's thinking, but quite happy about it. She's not worried, she's not wondering, oh, what's going to happen next. She's just admiring the view and very happy. There's no real outline, but the outline is picked out by the negative shapes there under her arm, around the outside of her breast and her chest, between her legs and down that side of her body. And the pose is, the shading is made on the it's a pencil drawing, and the pencil line with the point and shading with the flatness of the pencil. So if I got a pencil on which I haven't,
Find one.
I'll get one in a second. I have here, it's a charcoal pencil, this, and it's got a long point. It's very easy to break points, so take it very gently. And I'm not talking about that sort of a point. I'm talking about this. You can get a shading, and if you've sharpened it nicely, you can get a nicer shading than I've got at the moment. But that's, there you can get a tone, and you can smudge it, and you can get very, very strong blacks anyway. But you can also, you've also got that. So if you can make your point shaped like that, then you can angle it like this. Can you see the angle I've got it at? Not like that, but like that. Then you can make tone with your pencil. Now this is a charcoal pencil, so it works a bit more definite, but it's quite good for demonstrating to you. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Jeanie Mellersh says, thank you very much, goodbye. And that is edition 1, the beginning half of January. Thank you.
Nude
and
for Nude Day.
Nude Day. And this edition 2 will start on January the 17th, going to January the 31st. Thank you, goodbye.
The colourful world of Jeanie. Jeanie. The wonderful, colourful, mysterious world. The wonderful, colourful, mysterious world. The wonderful world of Jeanie.